many pieces to keep over, with every shape and design that won't fit in. That's the best of your peers. If you can make it through the summer, forget the paint on the walls, the dizzying view. There's barely the room. I see you better when the lights are out. I see you better when the lights are out. Just give a second and I'll figure it out. Yes, I will. 'Cause practice is over. Click, stop, damn the paint sticks. So we don't know how to keep this thing on rolling out. We would jam and curse so it wouldn't begin. Find a space on the floor. Tape down the edges of your waistcoat. Remember the words, the lighting cues. It's all up to you. I see you better when the lights are out. I see you better when the I'm a marinade of what's hot this summer. I'm an early comer, boy to go for Hummer. Every fight I feel its faults, every trend I do endorse. Got my genomes mapping, got my smart dog napping. I'm charging up the new thing. I'm entering a customized ring. I'm starting from the place you stop. I'm packing for an ego trip. Stop the scam, you day traders in a traffic jam. Can the craze, all you players out of place. Fight the man, all you suckers for a better brand. They got us living off the fat of the land. Get your pager on, 'cause you know my number. I'm a wireless wonder, got bombs of thunder. I'm riffing on a new thing. I'm entering a customized ring. I'm starting from the place you stop. I'm packing for an ego trip. Stop the scam, day traders in a traffic jam. Can the craze, all you players out of place. Fight the man, all you suckers for a better brand. They got us living off the fat of the land. Soul daddies in a firewire tumble dryer. Soul mamas broke the breaker. Soul children packing roadside pacifiers. Get your plug in, we all need to plug into our maker. I'm riffing on a new thing. I'm entering a customized ring. I'm starting from the place you stop. I'm packing for an ego trip. Stop the scam. Can the craze. Fight the man. They got us living off the fat of the land. Stop the scam. Day traders in a traffic jam. Can the craze. All you players out of place. Fight the man. All you suckers for a better brand. They got us living off the fat of the land. They got us living off the fat of the land. They got us living off the fat of the
Yes, they can hear me, and now they can hear you. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Now, thank you everybody for joining the YouTube live stream. Looks like all systems are go, so we are just gonna jump right into it. Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR, Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 175. We hope you and your loved ones are well with everything going on. We want to be a platform that promotes positivity, life, freedom, and justice for all. So we encourage you to listen to our previous episode where we talked about the protests and riots and civil unrest going on, how that has personally affected all of us. We know that is present and still currently unfolding, but we also want to celebrate all things Star Wars, and today we are exploring that with the music of Star Wars, with some special guests, friends of the show, Justin and Naomi Sunfield. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Friends of Carla, and Carla is, of course, joining us, so welcome, Carla.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Carla.
Hi.
The gang's all here, and we have Miss Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Heather.
Hello.
Hi.
The boys are outnumbered on this one. JD and Todd have the night off.
Yes, we are.
So it's about time, right? Yeah, so we're just gonna jump right into things with Cantina Chat. All right. Carla, let's start with you. What have you been up to?
I mean, not anything too crazy. I feel like the nerdiness has kind of died down now that like some of my costumes have been completed finally. But I'm doing a bit of prop work. I have the vibro axe that Leia has in Return of the Jedi. So I'm like working on sanding it down and making it look nice and pretty. So been hard at work with that. I have to catch up with my reading. It's been really slow lately. I like started the Rise of Skywalker novel and then I just forgot about it. So
oh no.
Yeah, I have to get back on that. And I'm also slowly reading the Silmarillion.
Nice.
It's really hard to get through. But taking my time because I want to make sure I understand all of it.
Is that the one where it's like a travel guide / encyclopedia for Middle Earth? Basically,
it's like the history of Middle Earth and how everything came to be.
Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of Lord of the Rings, I forgot to mention this in last week's Cantina Chat, but I watched so Josh Gad has been doing like all of these different reunions with different casts of like TV shows and movies and stuff. And last Sunday, he did a reunion for the Lord of the Rings cast. And it was amazing.
Whoa!
and I was crying. Like I get emotional now just talking about it. I was crying like the whole time because it wasn't just like you know like the Hobbits or like a few people here and there. I mean, I'm talking like the whole cast showed up except for maybe like I think the only people that weren't there were Kate Blanchett and oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Bernard Hill.
Okay.
But other than that, like literally everybody was there. And if you haven't seen it yet, just go to Josh Gad's YouTube, his channel, and it's like probably like the first or second video on the list. But it's just amazing. It made me so happy.
It was really good.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for me. So
awesome. Heather, what have you been up to?
Oh, you know what? Every time I go to do this, I'm like, there's nothing going on. And then I like list 8 things that are happening.
Yeah.
I can actually say this week, there's not really a lot. It's been kind of an adult week, or past 2 weeks, I guess, since I had to miss last week. But I've sold some furniture. I bought new furniture.
Ooh.
I know, right? I have taken cats to the vet because of hurt paws.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
Oh beans. Oh.
It's just. It's been a cat mom week. It's been lawn care week. Mowed the lawn at my folks for the first time ever. Thank you very much.
That's congratulations right there.
Right.
Look at you go.
I know. It's so somehow, I don't know, all of the jobs due to job came in at the same time and I had to get her done. So the only kind of highlight has been I did a recent troop for some 5th grade graduation kids, and I met up with some 501st peeps, and I received my mouse droid 3D printed contraptions. So
awesome.
Yes.
Really cool.
Very nice.
Is there some assembly required?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So
No.
I am waiting on a build day at someone's house, which hopefully, as Illinois gets nicer about hanging out with people, we'll be able to do that and have people teach me, because I'm very good at doing things. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do though. So
Gotcha.
Are you building
Well, yeah,
it
we
on
moved-
an RC car?
yes, it is a Traxxas Bandit, I
Yep.
think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all.
Ooh.
I've got that too, and
Cool.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just pretending like I know.
Yeah, but then
it'll
you'll
come.
learn
You got
and then
this.
you'll know it. And it'll
That's
be
right.
great.
That's
You
right.
got
Yeah,
this.
you got this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Excellent. Excellent.
that's it.
Well, if you're tuned into the live stream, you've probably heard a couple times a beep like this. That is because I got some new toys.
Ooh.
So because of my status as a student, the government has seen fit to send me $1,000. So I've been doing some more audio for video work. And so I decided to spend that on a business investment. For you audio nerds out there, the Zoom F8N is what I got. It is a, maybe I could show it on the stream a little bit.
Ooh,
At least,
what?
there it
What?
is. This box here.
Fancy.
Oh my, upside down. There we go.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Bunch of blinking lights and such. So what that does is, sorry for anybody who's nauseous right now. What that does is a high quality mobile recorder unit. You can plug up to 8 microphones into it, which is just crazy. It can record everything onto 2 SD cards in case one of them fails. It also acts as an audio interface, which you're hearing right now. And it has cool functions, like if I need to make like an edit point or whatever, I can just, and then I'll be able to see that in the audio later and make adjustments as necessary. There's a ton of cool features to this that I can't really get into now without just bloating Cantina chat. But I also got this control surface that goes with it. So if I'm like at a tabletop or whatever, I can plug it in and control everything like with the faders and knobs here. So the coolest part about this is that on future video shoots that I do, I can charge a rental fee for the use of this equipment, make a little bit of money back, save them some money on rentals. And the whole thing is a business expense write-off. So I am super happy about that.
The win-win.
But yeah, it's just very high quality. I'm stepping into pro level now. So super happy about that. And yeah, if we ever do, when we do podcasting in person again, we could just do it all in one box without having to have like an elaborate setup or anything like that. So yeah, I was expecting this
man.
thing Friday and it showed up today. So I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I've been geeking out about that, but super cool, super useful. It's probably the biggest nerd thing that's happened in the past week. But yeah, Justin and Naomi, what have y'all been up to?
Want to talk about your nerdiness first?
My nerdiness is, well, it's not super nerdy right now because of coronavirus. Most of my time is taken up with being the new homeschooling teacher for my 6-year-old son in kindergarten. So I was working on a costume, but that has kind of taken a back seat because I don't really have the time right now.
Okay.
Which stinks because I really need to get the costume done. But I haven't gotten time to do it this week, so I haven't had that much.
No, you haven't been as nerdy as me.
No, he's very
I've been
productive.
Super nerdy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super nerdy.
He's like the hare and I'm like the turtle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, we know who wins in the end. So
I know.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
fret not.
This is true. Her costume will be
Right.
much cooler than mine. that is for sure. But no, so we've been pretty nerdy since quarantine's begun. So I have to run our company during the daytime, but during normal lunch breaks and whatnot, I've been working on the Mandalorian costume
Okay.
for myself and for my 6-year-old. So I've been doing a
Oh.
simultaneous
So cute.
build of each of the parts, and we're getting there. But it's all meant to be kind of for celebration, which is for the most part in the air
I know.
probably at this point. But it's been great. It's been really good. I finished the rifle, which is over there this week, and that
Right
now we
on.
have 2 rifles, a big one and a little one. And then I've been latching the running joke amongst the friends during the
The
entire
squad
quarantine.
chat.
Yeah, the squad
Yeah.
chat has been, are you latching Wookiee fur? Because I've been making a Chewbacca for the last long time,
It's been a while.
Mhm.
and I have not touched it in like 4 weeks, and it's bad. I need to do that. But we've been nerding out pretty good. And then I've just started. I 3D printed for Elena, who you had on the show a while back. Her second sister helmet is done now, so we've done that for her. And right now, her armorer, we're making her the armorer, and her helmet's on the printer right now. So we'll see how that goes.
Yay.
Wow.
Have our
Fantastic.
fingers in lots of costume buckets.
Yeah, keeps the
Yeah.
free time filled.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are there any, besides just scaling things down when you're making a costume for your son, are there any other considerations that need to be had to make that work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything, the scale is the biggest part, because you have to get everything kind of proportionally right, and it's not about just scaling it like down to 60%, size, because all your proportions when you're a little kid are a little different. So some things got to get stretched out, whatnot, and some of the files just become kind of too small and unwieldy to print. So you have to kind of figure out some other things to do. But beyond that, it's really just the fussiness of the ease of taking on and off, where we have the patience to put on something that might take a little bit of time. He does not. So you
Yeah.
might economize and attach certain things that wouldn't necessarily be movie accurate, but are needed for that type of arrangement.
Interesting.
You'll get
Wouldn't
some
have thought about
practice
that.
with the short trooper too.
Yes,
Mine.
yes.
It's basically like a kid, so
Yes, the short trooper was our first major kids costume. I mean, we built it as if it was a 501st costume, and so he was a little short trooper for celebration in Chicago. It was pretty cute.
Wow.
it's so
Aw.
cool.
And he won,
He won.
the
Yeah, he won the
kids'
competition at
13 and
celebration.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
look at
That's
that.
awesome.
That was
It
really
was kind
cute.
of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
we loved our trip. I'd only been to Chicago a couple of times, and just love the city. It's such a great city, and so we really enjoyed celebration last year there. You guys did it very well.
Very well. I wish we had more time to explore the
I
city,
know.
though. We didn't take enough time to,
Get around.
to get around as much as we would have liked to.
Chicago's a great place. I love it here.
The reason to come back.
You do have one of the best sandwiches
Yeah.
I've ever had in my entire life, though. There's this.
Mm.
Okay, there is this. It's a Tennessee or Memphis or something hot chicken sandwich. It comes from a place called crap. I don't remember the name of it, but it's really, really good. I'll figure it out before the end of the show. But if you haven't tried it, it's the best chicken sandwich I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow. That's saying a lot, because isn't that a dish from Nashville?
It is in Nashville. That's it. Nashville chicken. Yeah, but it's
Okay.
it's better than anyone I've ever had in Nashville.
Wow. That's high praise.
Fighting words. I know. I gotta find the name of the place.
Oh, gosh.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's about it for us.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, fantastic. I don't think I missed anybody, so we're gonna. Oh, I did. I'm so sorry, Todd. You wrote in what you did for Cantina Chat. So, a reading of Todd's Cantina Chat. Todd watched Solo again. Got a new book for the kids. They're basically 5-minute Star Wars stories, which is super fun to read.
They're good.
He was a guest on the Tatooine Sons podcast, talking about missed opportunities with Finn. So go check it out. They are friends of the show. They might be a part of the Red 5 network. I could be totally
I'm
lying.
not sure.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. Forget I said
They
that.
should be.
Yeah, they should be.
And
Um,
edit.
Yep.
By the way, it's Budlong. Budlong is the name of the chicken. Budlong. Go get it.
Budlong.
Bud
Okay.
Oh my god.
Excellent. All right. So then he started and finished Queen's Peril by E.K. Johnston, which is a prequel to Phantom Menace, prequel to the prequel. Decent read, couple
fast.
fun little insights. And on the gaming front, he's playing Maneater. You get to play as a bull shark and eat fish and the occasional human being. And it's super fun, kind of like a shark RPG. That's the most like, I would not have predicted that for Todd, but that's kind of awesome.
And an occasional
human. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a game like that a while back. I think it was like Jaws Unleashed or something, where you basically just like swim around and attack people. That's the only shark game I've ever played. I can't imagine there's that many, but looks like Todd is getting his fill. So awesome. All right. Before we get to our main topic, discussing the music of Star Wars, let's pay some bills. So you could find everybody here on the socials. Heather at Hawk Awesome on Twitter, Instagram, and at Heather's Holocron on Instagram. Carla at Carla Marie Giac, Instagram and Twitter. Todd at Tizod with 4 Z's, Instagram and Twitter. He also has his own podcast, the Big T Little T Podcast. Find him on Instagram and Twitter, Big T Lil T LIL. And there's myself on Instagram at Aaron Julian. We're part of the Red 5 Network. It's a network of like-minded, cool Star Wars podcasts, just trying to make the world a little bit of a better place. You can find us at Red 5 Network, RED, numeral 5 Network, and of course, our own socials at WSTR Media. You can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. Call in. Tell us anything on your mind, anything Star Wars, the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to hear from you. And we will play your voicemail up on a upcoming episode of the podcast. We have an entire back catalog of episodes and all relevant links that you can check out at podcast.wstrmedia.com. And this show is brought to you by Audible, Amazon's world famous, dare I say it, galactically famous audiobook streaming service. Brings you over 425,000 titles to choose from wherever and however you want to listen. You can head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR to claim your free 30-day trial, which includes a free audiobook of your choice and 2 free Audible originals, audiobooks you can't get anywhere else. So don't miss out. Support your favorite podcast by heading on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR for your free 30-day trial today. And we've got merch. Head on over to store.wstrmedia.com. The good folks at Teespring will cover you head to toe in your favorite WSTR merchandising. You or a loved one. Those dads and grads, it's coming up. Don't miss out. Store.wstrmedia.com. And we are on Patreon. We have exclusive audio and video content there you can't get anywhere else. Just ask Jason Handy, Jeremy Myers, the Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast, Army John, and Elena Strikes. They are fans of the show, supporters of the show, and they are enjoying Heather's Holocron, her dive into learning more about the Star Wars universe, and Starside Chat, where myself and JD get together, sometimes alone, sometimes with guests, to talk about weird stuff, niche topics, things that just wouldn't make the cut on a normal WSTR episode. But you can find that there at patreon.com/WSTR Media. We also have an exclusive Discord community where you can be the first to hear about all goings on with the podcast. that's enough. We've paid the bills. Let's move on to our main topic. All right, Carla, take it away.
Okay. All right. So we have Justin and Naomi with us. So we're going to put you guys on the hot seat for a few minutes before we dive in. But tell us how you guys got into Star Wars.
Oh, me to start since I'm the old.
You have,
I'm
yeah,
the
and you're
guy.
the longest to speak.
So, story goes on some days after the opening, I think 3 or 4 days after the grand opening, my parents went to the premiere and my father decided to take us to go see Star Wars. So I was 4 and just fell in love with it from that moment on. I always say if I hadn't gone there that night, I probably could have been an amazing athlete, but instead I was just a geek for life. And it was just everything. And then the summer afterwards, so this must have been the summer of 1978, I was in preschool at Newcomb Nursery Preschool in New Orleans, and some child brought in my first action figure I ever saw, and it was C-3PO, and just fell in love with that character from the beginning. And I remember subsequently every time there was a premiere, seeing the movie multiple times. We went to every premiere on every night following that first one, and everything I did was live and breathe Star Wars. And back then you didn't have a VCR. You basically lived off of things like the holiday special and all the behind the scenes making of shows that would come on. A friend of mine whose dad was like a doctor had a Betamax, and he had recorded one of the shows that came on TV. And so we would role play and play with action figures. And I even shot an 8mm video of Star Wars at one point in time. And it was just kind of my everything growing up, and led me into a deep love for the space program. And, eventually I went to school for aerospace engineering, which of course led to a glorious career in retail. So there was a stepping off point at some point, but just Star Wars fan for life. Always was a costume lover also. So we met each other at a point in time. And Naomi, I'll let you tell your story, but she's basically predisposed to liking Star Wars based on everything else she likes.
Yeah, I came to Star Wars a little bit later. I think my love of fashion and costuming came first. And I was always into like sci-fi fantasy stuff, but
Like
I was
more than me.
Yes, more than him. But I am at a different kind of a funny age because I'm a little too young for the episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
But I'm a little too old for episodes 1, 2, and 3. So, and I was a little bit more into the Lord of the Rings because that came out around the same time. I think a little bit before.
It was like during.
Yeah, during
Yeah.
the prequels. But when we met, you reintroduced me to all the movies, and then I really got a full understanding of all the movies when we had our son, and he loves the movies, and he would ask me a lot of questions, and I would need to answer them. And we just watched them a lot. So we watched them a lot. And I had cosplayed the characters before we had found out about the Rebel Legion and the 501st. Obviously, they weren't up to the standards yet, but I really did love all of Padme's costumes. I just didn't have the expertise and skill level required to make all of them. But my first costume was Fireside Padme. I made that and then remade it and got it accepted and approved. That's actually recently, like a year ago.
No. But
Yeah.
she's the bigger geek. Like she's like the Harry Potter geek /
Yeah, I like Harry Potter.
What house are you in?
Slytherin.
Oh, nice.
I'm a bad. He's more.
She's
of
the
good,
dark side. I'm the
Yeah.
light side. It's that
Yeah.
whole thing. But it's It's been great. I mean,
know, it's
we've,
bad.
you know, we are huge Disney fans, so we spend a lot of time at Disney and bring the child to Disney as well. And you know, we've just loved this Star Wars renaissance, and that the next generation is now going to be able to appreciate what we appreciated when we were kids. So that's what got us here.
Very cool.
And yeah, and, you know, becoming a part of the costuming groups, you meet people like, you know, that you would just have never met before, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So that actually leads into the next question. And I'm surprised because I don't think I actually really know this. I don't know if you guys ever like talked about it with me or anything, but how did you guys get into the 501st and Rebel Legion? Like, how did you find out about it?
It was me. So, I mean,
We were together when we first.
yeah.
Well, you knew about it
I knew
for a
about
lot
it, yeah.
longer.
She was the big catalyst to actually push us forward into it. But I mean, I grew up in South Carolina, then Georgia. So the 501st, the original 501st areas were very close. Always knew about Dragon Con, but never went. And was always very interested in it, but just never really had the means to pull it all together or the talent. And then Anovos was running a special on that first Stormtrooper that they had for like $350, where it used to be like $800 to $1,000. So I was like, I mean, it's not going to put too much of a dent in the college funds if I try that one out. And so I did it and made it and never got it approved. It's still sitting downstairs made, and it's the only costume that we have downstairs that's actually not approved.
Oh no.
I know, because right after that or during that, the Force Awakens came out, and it was all about Kylo Ren at that point, and that was actually the
Well, that is the first. Yes. So I don't want him to sell himself short. He learned how to sew and made the Kylo Ren. Well, kind of. Made it, and that's what really got us into it, because we went to our first celebration in Orlando, and that's how we were talking, and we went up to I think the Rebel Legion.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had Ray on. Of course, it was from like someplace
cosplay shop of some sort.
Yes, exactly. So it wasn't approvable, but we just thought we'd go up and have a conversation, and everyone was so nice, and she was just explaining like what it required and where to go to figure out what we needed to do, and it was such a pleasant experience. We also got to meet someone in the cosplay community that is very much an amazing person and helped us out a lot.
You talking Christine?
Yeah, Christine.
Yeah, she was incredible and really. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, and she was instrumental in us like really getting interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point it was kind of like on, and so I got approved in the 501st, and we had this crazy notion, or I had this crazy notion that if I was going to get her involved in it, that I wanted her in full armor. And so I bought a couple of TK kits from the new movies, and we turned one of them into Phasma. So she had.
Oh.
So once we got her into armor, she never went back.
The Phasma is incredible. It's so good.
It was a little taller, but it's okay.
So we know that Carla has like 25,000 costumes in
Yeah.
Heart of Legions. So I have to assume between the two of you, you have a plethora.
I think
Yes.
we're between the two of us with approved costumes, and there's some cheating in here because of Han Solo variations.
Sure.
22 between us.
Okay. And our favorite one is
It's Phasma.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, she's just such a. Can I cuss on
Badass.
here? Yeah, badass.
Beep.
Not
Yeah.
gonna be it. For me, yikes. Probably my first Vader costume that I did. A New Hope Vader. It's still probably my favorite out of all of them.
I'm surprised it's not Goldenrod.
I know. That's what I thought he was going to say.
Well, there's that one.
Well, you can
there's
name
a
one
love-
from each. You
there's
can
a
say
lot-
one
yeah.
from 501st.
One
and
501st. That's
Yeah.
my favorite Revolution costume.
There you go.
I mean,
There you go.
there's something about playing C-3PO that's just, it's just fun and really neat to see people's reaction, because you do get the 50-50 that is there a person in there or is there not a person in there.
Were you the C-3PO at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago?
It was one of 3.
Okay, well then I may
So-
have met you.
They have. So Gordon Tarpley was one, Tim Sullivan was one, and then it was myself. Yeah.
Okay.
There may have been more, but those are the 2 that I knew.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Super cool. Awesome. All right. So thank you guys. So we're gonna move on now and dive into our main topic here. So last year we had all kind of talked about some different topics that we would like to bring to the show and different things that we would like to discuss. And I had an idea that we could, kind of go around and pick our favorite tunes from the Star Wars universe and kind of pick them apart a little bit and kind of talk about why we like them so much. So we all got to pick 2 tracks, which was very hard to do, by the way.
Really hard.
It was really hard to narrow it down. So we all got to pick 2, our top 2, and so we're just gonna kind of go around and talk about each one and play a little clip of each and have a little discussion about it. So
Very
let's see. Justin, how about we have you go first? So what is your, I guess we could do like second pick and then first pick,
I'm
right?
gonna do second pick first.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Silver before the gold.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, it is so hard to lock down a song that's that important, and there's so many, and it's such a special part of the movies. So I'll give that as a precursor. But Rogue One was, I can't say it was like this pleasant surprise because I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize how good and how emotional and a Star Wars movie really could be that wasn't about the core characters, that really pulled it all together and kind of set the stage for the core characters. So my second pick was your father. I think it's called "Your Father Would Be Very Proud of You" or "Your Father Would Be Proud of You," and it's as the final moments of Rogue. I don't want to know if I should do spoilers, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this show,
goodness,
you must know the spoilers.
You haven't seen it by now. I mean,
Spoilers for like a 4-year-old movie.
So it's obviously when Scarif is being destroyed by the Death Star or the base of Scarif, and Jen and Cassian have their final embrace, and it leads into the encounter of Vader on the Tantive. It's just perfect on every level. It pulls at every one of your feels that you can possibly feel because it's got some romantic strings to it. It's got just an amazing tempo that kind of really starts to or feeling that builds up. And again, just having those incredible moments of kind of sacrifice, and then where it's all gonna go. So it's just cool.
are we playing a clip of it? Right? I think I hear it.
Yeah, you should be able to hear it.
Yeah.
It starts off kind of somber, and then it just breaks, and then it breaks you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really builds, and it really,
Visualizing the scene.
you can totally, and that's the thing with all of the Star Wars songs is you can totally see what's happening, which actually was why my number 1 becomes my number 1. We'll say that.
Yeah, and this was Michael Giacchino that composed it.
Mhm.
Yes, a New Jersey boy. Oh yeah.
What
Totally.
part?
I don't know which part, but he is a Jersey boy
Jersey.
living in California.
Let's take a minute here just to appreciate the music. Wow. If I had hair, it'd be standing up
I
right
know.
now.
And rebuild.
Your father would be proud of you, Jin.
Mhm.
Wow. Excellent choice. Do you want to lead into your number 1 pick, though?
Ooh, is that back to me again?
Yeah,
All right.
back to
So
you.
number 1 is, so I was walking to work one day, and I had never listened to just isolated tracks on the Solo soundtrack, so they all kind of went together at a point in time. But this one track comes up, and it almost has in it elements from every single action-packed Star Wars track there is. So the track starts with and I'll say it's reminiscence therapy. Reminiscence therapy. The name, I don't know. Thanks, John Powell. I guess it's just a weird name, but it starts with an Imperial bomb, and I guess we'll hear it in a second. And so it sets the tone as a major Star Wars action theme, and it harkens back to that asteroid chase in Empire Strikes Back, which is probably, as a Han Solo freak fan, one of my favorite sequences that there is, period. And so it kind of gets into that feel, and it's as they are dodging through the maw in Solo and fighting off the TIE fighters. And there's this whole impact of the first time that Han and Chewie sit in the chair together, and it even goes through that whole na 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 na, part from Empire, which is just incredible. So that for me, it's fun, it's thrilling, it embodies everything that the action of Star Wars is.
Wow. Fantastic. Let's give it a listen for a few seconds here.
This is the best part.
What I love about that arrangement is, like, they take a familiar Star Wars tune and they add kind of like a primal like marching drum battery to it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I love it.
It's really a medley of like all the action-packed Falcon tunes from all the movies. It's really cool.
Wow, fantastic. And that was John Powell as the composer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Very well done.
Awesome.
Very, very, very well done.
Cool. Well, thank you, Justin.
No problem, Carla.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. So, Naomi, we're going to move on to you.
Okay. I was actually so interested to find out what he picked because he's such a fan of the originals. I thought for sure one of those would be in there, but he surprised me. So my number 2 pick was Farewell from The Rise of Skywalker. I kind of went with the newer movies again because I think I'm more familiar with those as far as not having such a growing up with Star Wars as connection as Justin did. And Farewell, it's the name, it's you're saying we said goodbye to the Skywalker story, and it opens with Rey's just defeated the Emperor, but she's dying, and then it cuts to Finn, and you get to see him have that confirmed feeling the Force, and he feels that she's passed. And then it cuts back to her, and then comes back, and you're like, yes. And then you're like, no.
Yeah.
But you get to. I love Adam Driver, so I'm like, he's an amazing actor, but between his acting and the score, and what John Williams did is, you feel it. There's no words in these scenes initially when Ben comes back, but he finds Ray, and he, in that moment where he's realizing what he has to do when she sees that she's gone, and it's just like he does the ultimate sacrifice, that you are sad to see happen, but you kind of knew he had to do that redeeming quality. It's like what kind of had to happen in the movie. But the best part was they got that one moment of happiness together. I was bawling. I based my picks by how much I cried, and that was number 2, crying.
Because Adam Driver died.
Well, yeah. Pretty much. I mean, that's something to cry about.
It is.
Yeah. And then, what else happens in that one? Ben returns, so then he passes, and he returns to the Force, and then cuts to Leia, and, she returns to the Force, which is also, like, super impactful and a huge moment. And then after that, you get to see Ray and leaves, and then you see the Millennium Falcon, and you get to see Poe, and they all kind of connect, and then I think it cuts to all the Star Destroyers being destroyed, coming down, and it's just it's a good, feel good, sad, happy, hits you in all the feels, kind of.
All the feels.
All the feels.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome. Let's give it a listen.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. A lot of rich texture there.
Yeah.
Wow. Excellent choice.
Good one.
That's a good one.
Then for my first choice is also from the Rogue One soundtrack. And I really could have picked every song on there. Like, I really love that soundtrack, but I had to mix it up. So I actually chose the song before yours. I think it's before I think it's one. Yeah. And it's the Master Switch.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That's a big one for you.
it's a
lot of
big
reasons.
one. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, so many cool aspects of that one, but it starts with the Death Troopers coming out of the ship, which, I mean, they're just badass. That costume is amazing. But then it goes to these tense, like, action scenes. Not action, but it's building up because Jyn and Cassian are trying to get Stardust out, and they're literally jumping onto that where all the files are held, and Krennic is coming. So it's going back and forth between this race of, can they get it? Can they get the file between them and Krennic? So that's action. But then you also have it juxtaposed with Chirrut, who has to decide that he's going to go flip the master switch, which means he has to put himself in the line of fire to do this. And he goes for it, and you can hear Baze yelling for him in the background. And, you know, the strings come in, and it's a little peaceful as he's walking out. And I'm one with the Force is with me, and I'm like bawling. And he gets the master switch, pulls it, it kind of crescendos a little bit. It flips back to Cassian and Krennic, and I think that's when Krennic shoots Cassian, and he falls, and he's like, you know, before he says, keep going. So she keeps going, and then it flips back, and Chirrut is blown up when they shoot the master switch thing. And so Baze is running out there, and it's like this, I love strings, and I love that part of the orchestra, and it comes in, and it's just this amazingly tender moment between the two of them. And Chirrut says something like, you will always find me with the Force, or and then he passes, and Baze starts saying, I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me, which is so meaningful because earlier in the movie, you know, he kind of, when they meet Jin, he kind of jokes about how Chirrut is a dreamer and a fool for believing in the Force. And then in that moment where they have this connection and their love for each other and their friendship, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. So it's like
So
such a big, such a big moment.
But they are like your favorite two characters.
And I think that just shows about what this movie is that you can care so much about these characters that they've built that you don't see in any other movie. It's just them in the standalone, and you just care about them so much. And it's just, I don't know, it's just.
But also, I mean, kind of going back to like last week's, you know, one of the affinities you talked about was that there were, I mean, it was before Last Jedi came out. It was the first truly Asian folks you saw, you know, in the movies that had lead roles. And Naomi's half Japanese. So you know, it was kind of one of those seeing your own types of people out there that, and they were just, I mean, they were just such a great duo, and you want to learn more, and hopefully we will learn more in future stuff.
But yeah, here's all the feels. Just
wow, fantastic. All right, I suppose I am up next. And you know, I had a lot of different choices with music to bring up, just because there's so many different Star Wars films that I like, so many different moments that I think are just unforgettable, and the music is a huge part of that. But my number 2 has to be Hyperspace from Empire Strikes Back. And so a lot of the reasoning for this basically has to tie into everything I feel about Star Wars as a whole. Like, there's a lot of it that is just basically straight, just swashbuckling action, for lack of a better term. This kind of space fantasy, good versus evil, good guys trying to outrun the bad guys. And this is no more clear than when the Falcon is trying to, you know, get through the asteroid field and away from the Empire, who's just bearing down on them. And it's such a tense scene, both visually, them trying to navigate through the asteroid fields, the Star Destroyers behind them trying to pursue. It feels like every little element of filmmaking was coming together to really make you feel that, you know, they are in danger, and it's such a tense scene. And this music has been reused a lot in Star Wars video games. this was a big one in Shadows of the Empire. When you're on the train through the Ornamental junkyard hunting down IG-88, this one is just, it's relentless, it's thundering, just like the train that you're on. So yeah, I've got a lot of good memories with this, and I feel it's particularly powerful. So let's give it a listen for a few seconds here. Another particular thing I like about that track is the leitmotif, the way that they work in the Imperial March into it, and the Force theme and Leia's theme. Yeah, it all works its way in there, and it really tells the story emotionally without any words. That in particular, I really like about that track. And then. My number one pick has to be, again, from Empire. Big surprise there. I don't know. It just really felt like John Williams was at the top of his game there with regards to what he was doing. And so this track is the finale of Empire Strikes Back, and appropriately enough, it is titled Finale. So the particular part that I want y'all to listen to is right here. Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
Then it gets into the end credits, and it's like, yes, that is how you end a movie. It's like, the third act of Empire, you're just thrown through such a loop of emotions as far as, I am your father, and I love you, I know, and, Luke being betrayed, but then rescued by Leia, Leia's connection to the Force. It's just so much to process, but the last couple minutes of the movie, there's just no dialogue. It's all kind of emotionally told through the music, and, you hear Leia's theme in there, and it works into this kind of big triumphant ending, but there's this vulnerability and tenderness to it as well. It's I can't think of a better ending tune to a movie than that.
And then they did something at the time that had really never been done, which was actually have a second act movie that didn't end. That you didn't know what was going to happen, and you had to wait 3 years before you could figure out what was going to happen. There was no
Yeah.
internet. There was no, there was no rewatching it over and over and over again. There's nobody calling, oh, how can you end a movie like that? We don't know who the
Yeah.
emperor is. So,
Yeah, the stakes were real, and just like these characters' journeys weren't over yet.
Yep.
Your journey with Star Wars wasn't over yet. Wow, that just gets me every time.
yeah, it's such a good one.
Yeah. Then you get a little reminder of the Empire. They're still out there. They're still pushing forward. Wow. All right, I won't hang on that for too long. But those are my picks.
One of the other parts that I thought was always kind of neat, and it's almost like some kind of pathology of understanding John Williams, is think of all the projects he had at the same time, or roughly around the same time, between
Oh,
E.T., Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, and how in his mind some of these could have gone either way. Maybe this is going to be the theme for this, and I don't think Jaws would have ever been Star Wars, but Raiders and Star Wars, you can tell, have a very close kinship of writing. That they were very similar in feel. And that's always been kind of. I would love to sit John Williams down and ask him, how did you pick what was in your mind for each one of these to be the theme? Because they're all so monumentally memorable.
yeah. It boggles the mind how head and shoulders above he was everybody else at the time, and even all these years later, it still can't be outclassed by anybody. Wow. Okay. We're gonna move to JD's contributions. I don't want to put words in his mouth as far as what he thinks about these tracks, so I'll give a little bit of context for them, and then we'll just give them a listen, and then we'll kind of, just reflect on what we've heard. So his number 2 pick is called Vote On. It's the main theme from the Star Wars Republic Commando soundtrack, and it sounds a little bit like this. So that shows up several times in the game. But yeah, any kind of impressions, initial thoughts about that track in particular?
I'm not surprised that was one of JD's picks.
No.
Yep.
I mean, it was neat to see how, choir kind of became a part of the Star Wars landscape and songs. And not knowing what everybody else picked. It's all kind of started around Duel of the Fates. And
yeah, I was about to say that it seems like Duel of the Fates kind of opened the pathway, because you didn't get choir in Star Wars before then. Yeah, in particular, I think this works pretty well because of the kind of mythology of the clone troopers all kind of being brothers in arms, quite literally, and the lyrics themselves are in Mandalorian, the language of the Mandalore tribe. So I believe the composer of this wanted to kind of have that kind of reflect that primal, martial culture that the Mandalorians have, but kind of shift and apply that to the clone troopers, being the clones of a Mandalorian. So yeah, I like that very much. So thank you, JD, for that. And then in that same vein, probably also not a surprise, the main theme from Knights of the Old Republic. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that right now. All right. So, if I can offer some thoughts, as far as I know, Knights of the Old Republic was the first. This is the kind of first music composed specifically for the Old Republic era of Star Wars. And it's really interesting to see their heavy use of brass, and the kind of, it almost feels like a parade put on for royalty. And it's an interesting choice for introducing you to what's supposed to be the kind of like, golden age of the Empire. So, anybody else have any thoughts on what they just heard?
It felt very Renaissance to me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which very much, I guess, feels like an Old Republic kind of vibe.
And it'll be interesting
Yeah,
to see
for
what
sure.
they do with the High Republic, that's kind of in between. If they kind of take that more kind of courty thing, and Renaissance-y, even though it's a little later than that. But
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'd be weird to see if they go for like an entirely different style of music altogether. A lot of Star Wars music is based off neo-romanticism. But, could be interesting if they went after a whole different time period altogether.
Well, look at how different The Mandalorian is from
Yeah.
the rest of it.
yeah.
It's like unique, but like now when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's Star Wars, But when I remember when I first listened to the first episode's soundtrack, I was like, oh, this is just not Star Wars, but it's just funny how, the more we watched and listened and it became, such a hit. Now you hear that, was that a recorder that he used, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need to hear. And you're like, Star Wars, and it's just so good.
It's weird how well it works. And I think he deliberately tried to go for like, he thought, okay, what is Star Wars? What is Star Wars music? What is the least Star Wars music I could make? And that was a recorder.
Yeah.
Worked out pretty well. All right. And we also have a submission from Elizabeth, who is going to be on the podcast tonight, but couldn't make it. And her choice was a fan favorite, Duel of the Fates. So we are all well familiar with this track, I would think. It's probably one of the most popular Star Wars tracks out there. So yeah, let's talk about it. Carla, you've got something to say.
So fun fact, and I heard this from somebody else, but they did like a giant survey, and they threw it out to, I don't know if it was just Star Wars fans. I think it was just like general public, but they asked people like, what is the most memorable Star Wars song. And you would think it would be the main theme. Nope,
Yeah.
it was Duel of the Fates.
Wow.
Huh.
And I was just surprised to hear that, because it's like, really? You would think, again, going back to the main theme, like everybody hears that and they know it's Star Wars, but I don't know. It's definitely up there as a favorite.
So, I mean, for me, in 1999, so I was 27 years old, and don't.
Oh, wow.
27. And so we hadn't had Star Wars for many, many, many years, and they came out with the special edition, which was awesome for the geeks of the world because we got to see it in theaters again. And surrounding the movie, there was obviously a ton of hype, and the soundtrack. Since then they now released the soundtrack on the day of the release of the movie, but they had pre-released the soundtrack, and this was the first song, and they had created a video that kind of went along with the trailer, but also had John Williams through the process and had the choir and everything in there.
Oh.
And it was our first Star Wars music that we had in 16 years, and so it was a huge tone setter for the whole thing. Now, of course, the soundtrack that they released before the movie came out basically had every spoiler that you could possibly want to know in the movie. Like Qui-Gon's Noble Death is the name of a track.
Oops.
This song had a lot, for those of us that are really old, had a lot of special meaning because it was really the first Star Wars.
Oh no, I think we lost him.
We got that. That's why
He's back. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, it's hard for someone like me to place myself in that kind of frame of mind because, I was like 5 years old at the time. But it is a weird phenomenon to see this kind of track, which is almost like lightning in a bottle. Like, I can't imagine a more memorable or emotionally driven track is this for ultimately what's a fight between two people that we just met and a guy that we don't know anything about. But it somehow just all works. It's so cool.
And it doesn't matter who you are. If you hear this song and you have a lightsaber in your hand,
Yeah.
you're dueling.
Yeah. There's no choice.
Awesome.
Wow. Heather, any thoughts on it?
Gosh, I don't know that there's anything more to be said. This might be misplaced to comment on, but when we were doing this episode, I realized I know nothing about Star Wars music, and when I say nothing, not that like I ignore those parts of the movie because clearly they're there. I think it's just the story. It's part of the story, and so so obviously Duel of the Fates, as stated, is known and popular, and you can almost see the lightsabers in action when it's happening. So because I think once you're imported into a film or into that story or into that world, I think we can all agree on the main theme when that first note hits, that first drop hits of the Star Wars theme, you're like, here we go, we're going in. Like we're almost in the Millennium Falcon, like flying into the movie. And so slight embarrassment over here to be like, I don't know, it's because it's all just part of the bigger storytelling. That to just pick pieces out, I'm like, I don't understand. It's what it is. So I think, but definitely Duel of the Fates is one where you kind of see the battle, you can hear the lightsabers, connecting, and yeah.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but you could watch an edit of the Star Wars movies with all the sound effects and dialogue removed and just the music, and you would still know what's going on.
Hmm.
It's that
Yeah.
good. So excellent. Carla, you're up next.
Okie doke. So for my second pick, I went with The Force Awakens. And the track is called Jedi Steps and the Finale.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love this whole track in itself. I think it's I just remember, sitting in the theater and watching it for the first time, and Rey, she's walking up up to the Octo, and it's like a slow buildup. It's kind of quiet at first, and then you start to hear the violins and everything, and it's just again like a slow buildup. And everyone's thinking like, oh, like where's she going? Like, are we gonna see Luke Skywalker? Like, oh my god, But I love the part where she's approaching him, and it's that big grand sounding music, and you see him with the hood, and you're like, oh my god, that's him. It's the big cheese. And then she takes it out of her bag, and then it comes back down again, and it's the very quiet, subtle Force theme, and it's just so good. But my favorite part of that whole track is the very end. So it rolls into the the end credits, and it usually rolls through the different themes and stuff that you hear. And I had listened to this track like a couple times, but it was maybe like a few times in that I had finally noticed this particular part of the song. So it's at the very end. And what John Williams does is he takes the Force theme and he kind of like rolls it in together with Ray's theme. And it's just, it just sounds so cool. And like, I get goosebumps from it because it just works perfectly. Yeah. So that's my favorite part of that track.
Awesome. Let's give it a listen. Oh. Wow.
That's so good.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just a little
Excellent
gem
choice.
hidden in there. So yeah.
Excellent choice.
And then for my first choice, Surprise, guys! It's not Princess Leia's theme.
I mean, I didn't
What?
pick that one because I thought you would.
Nope.
I feel cheated.
I love Princess Leia's theme. Don't get me wrong. I cry every time I hear it. But my first pick actually comes from Revenge of the Sith. And
Oh.
yes. And it's the track named The Birth of the Twins and Padme's Destiny.
Ooh.
So this is when, she's giving birth to Luke and Leia, and Obi-Wan's talking to her, and it's like this quiet kind of start to it, and then it builds up. But what I love about this track is there is a parallel here when you watch the film. So you get the choir, and there's like the chanting, and I think it's actually like a funeral song from Naboo or something like that. So they're playing this choir part of the song during her funeral procession. But then when you move forward a little bit in the film, they also play that same choir section when Anakin is rising and becoming Darth Vader. And I just think it's so cool how, it's a funeral procession, the death of Padme, but it's also the death of Anakin Skywalker. And then, of course, you have the parallel of the twins being born, and then, Darth Vader's being born. Yeah. And I just think it's so powerful how John Williams kind of made that work. And then, of course, like the Force theme gets me with anything with the music. But the way that he composed this track, I don't know, like it's like, oh man, like the feels for this. So
yeah, and you notice that Padme's last breath and Vader's first breath are on time with each other. Mm-hmm. So it ends and then picks up. Which I'm sure you can almost see George saying to John, and this starts and then this stop, and so do something there,
All right, let's give it a listen. Whew. Wow. Carla.
It's a toughie.
Again, it's one of those tracks like you don't like normally think of, right? It's not probably not at the top of the list for most people, but it's just so like it's got that element of sadness to it, and then like that element of okay, like this is his destiny, this is his fate, and it's just it's like, man, this is some heavy stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, I get goosebumps every time I hear this.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. All right, we got a couple more music tracks coming up here. The first one is, or rather the last two, they're from Todd. So Todd did leave a bit of commentary on here, so I will go ahead and read that. The first is from Solo, L3 and the Millennium Falcon.
I like that one.
So Todd says that the Falcon is its own personal character, and he loves that she gets her own theme in Solo. The reveal of the Falcon is fun, and he just loves how Chewie and Han look at the cockpit under the moonlight, which is just awesome. So let's sit back and give it a bit of a listen. I think Todd may have found a song that is as cool as Han Solo. I love it. What do y'all think about it? Any kind of reactions, emotions to it?
I'm a Han Solo fan. I always have been. He's by far my favorite human character, and I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. So when I found out that there was going to be a Solo movie, I had probably the exact opposite reaction to a lot of people out there. I just could not wait, and I knew it was going to be some sort of a comedy / different take on Star Wars. And this whole scene that this sets up, with right after Han tries to get everything and loses, and they've got this kind of moonlight stroll down this lit way, and you find out that Landonis's name is Landonis, and all this stuff is revealed, and they go to the repossession yard, and you see the Falcon for the first time. For me, it's one of the best moments in Star Wars. It's just, I did a Instagram post I think leading up to Rise of Skywalker, and I thought, or actually it was after Rise of Skywalker, and it was just all the images that have come in the post or in the Disney era of Star Wars that have just made you really just feel alive for Star Wars, and that was one of them when Han looks up at the Falcon for the first time. It's just it just gets you.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Todd, for submitting that one in.
Good one, Todd.
And then we have Todd's number one pick, which Naomi, you think I like. Master Switch from Rogue One.
Oh, there you go.
So we get a bit of an encore for this one. So here is what Todd had to say. Nothing will beat Imperial March, but my new favorite is Master Switch, Rogue One. The stakes are high, and I just love the build on this song. Since it has come out, it is my go-to song if I want to get pumped. The last song I play when I go to any Star Wars troop, celebration, movie premiere, you get the idea. So, yeah, we'll get to enjoy that one a little bit here. But, yeah, Naomi, you and Todd seem to be on the same page with that one.
Can I throw in another little fact here? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
I always get excited because whenever I hear the song, so just to quickly explain. So there's a podcast called The Soundtrack Show, and David Collins is the host. And what he does is he takes different movie, TV soundtracks, and he kind of breaks down the music. More, along the lines of someone who's more of an expert in music. I will never forget, he does one episode about doom and gloom in scores and music, and I think it's actually playing right now. So there's a theme called Dies Irae, which is an old Gregorian chant, I believe.
Right. I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Yep. and you hear it because it's Dies Irae, so it translates to death, or the final judgment, doom is coming, whatever. So when after I listened to that episode and I went back to the song, like I was like, wait a minute, that's Dies Irae, and like once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and so it's just it's so cool, because then like Naomi, like you were saying, like like that scene is so tense, and it's it's like the build up to the unfortunate death of so many of the characters. So like after I had heard that, I was like, oh, I get it. Like it was like one of those light bulb moments. So yeah, that's always like my tidbit fact that I like to
The
just
song
throw
in the
out.
movie where you realize they're not gonna make it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was like, because you kind of K2 died and you're just like, oh, that sucks, but then you're like, oh, they could rebuild them, and then those two go and you're like, I think I even turned to you in the theater, I think I said they're not gonna make it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No one's gonna make it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I pulled up Dies Irae here, so let's give it a bit of a listen. Yeah, so that's Dies Irae, which translates to the Day of Wrath.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually the inspiration behind a rather famous track from a different video game, nothing Star Wars related, Final Fantasy VII, Sephiroth, which is probably one of the greatest boss fight themes of all time. So yeah, that song's influences are felt far and wide.
You
Yeah,
can
good
even
bit
hear
of.
it in the I think you can actually hear it in the main theme too of Star Wars. I'm trying to think of the parts. So Dies Irae, but like it's like the opposite. So it's like they're overcoming like Death Star, like death, and yeah.
Wow.
It's so cool.
That's fascinating.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So very cool. That about wraps it up as far as our episode today. So thank you all for coming on our journey. As we take a bit of time to appreciate the music of Star Wars, something Carla's been wanting to do for quite some time. Thank you, Justin and Naomi, for joining us.
Thank you.
Heather, do you want to wrap up this episode for us?
I will. There will be no fancy finale music happening. It'll just be my voice. For that, I apologize.
I'm sure I can
think
come up with something.
Fantastic. But I think it's safe to say that after listening to our episode, you will be hopping on your iTunes, hopping on Spotify, Pandora, whatever music apparatus you use, and saying, Star Wars soundtracks, please, and reliving all of these moments. So, but as always, thank you again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access, and thanks to those who are following us along on our YouTube. Don't forget, YouTube, we go live Monday nights at about 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. So
Give or take a few minutes.
Give or take a minute or two, depending on how organized we are. But you can check us out on our social media. That's WSTR Media. It's one word. It's all lowercase. All the deets about all the things are in there. And of course, we want to hear from you. So don't forget to comment. Go ahead and send us a tweet. You can rate us. And if you give us a 5-star rating on that Apple podcast, we're going to throw things at you in the form of swag. Just go ahead and retweet it or email us a screenshot of it so we have proof that you actually did it. Not that we're saying you're liars, but you know what I mean. Don't forget, we have email. Email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com or leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That is 630-557-9787. I've got cats standing by, ready to listen and get that up on the podcast. We have merch. Yes.
Ooh.
We do have merch at store.wstrmedia.com. Head to toe in all the good things. We're on Patreon. That is patreon.com/WSTR Media. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I am sure you'll enjoy the rest. So check out our website at podcast.wstrmedia.com for the full back catalog of episodes. Zone Fields, I'm gonna loop you together. So clearly we want to continue to share all the Star Wars love. So if our friends want to find you on social media to follow along with all of the costume builds and all of the little Mando in armor, because I know I will, where can we find you on the socials?
Oh, I'm just easy at Sonfield, SONFIELD.
And I'm at Naomi Leilani, NaomiLeilani.
Perfect.
And then one other is the Kid Cosplayer. And
That's our
Jack.
Nice.
Cute.
Nicely
It's
done.
cute. I mean, we're biased, but you know.
No, he's adorable.
Yes.
He's adorable.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and check them out if you are up for that. Don't forget, we are part of the Red 5 Network. It's a great family. We're just a group of nerds that get together and chat. But you can check us out at Red 5 Network or the website, which is www.red5network.com for updates, shenanigans, and probably something else. I don't know. Next week's episode, we are at 176. And it's a good thing I brought up the Red 5 Network because we've got the girls from Galactic Podcast coming on next week.
Yeah.
Hooray.
I had to specifically pull out the gal because I always just jump over it when I try to say it. Before I forget, friends, are you on Twitter? Do
No.
you know someone on Twitter?
No.
Should you be on Twitter?
No.
I don't know about now.
Well, if you are, and if you know people that are, and you think they would enjoy us, help us. We are at 3,349 followers, and we are desperately trying to get to 3,500. I mean, we're like right there.
Bar.
So we have giveaways. Carla has boxes.
Ooh.
Maybe that's like a little exaggerated, but maybe that's what we need to get
No,
to
I have boxes
She
of
has boxes.
Funko Pops.
Funko Pops.
So-
So basically she wants to buy more, even though we're limiting her in buying more, but still. So please follow us on Twitter and help us get to 3,500 and we will throw giveaways at you. All right. I think we've done everything that we can. So there's only one way to end our episode. Are we ready?
I think we are.
Let's do it.
Okay. If you know what to do from home, do it with us.
Follow the bouncing
Nah.
ball. Now this is podcasting.
Aaron, that's what we have to do on the next episode. We've got to do a
Yeah, we need a
Oh,
bouncing
that's
ball.
Sing along. Like the Disney sing along.
It is the
Oh,
music
awesome.
episode, guys.
True.